What is going on, guys? It's the Inside the Blue podcast, and today we have a NFL Giants preview, draft preview today of what I believe should be drafted at the number 6 position. It's going to be an interesting draft. A ton of talent on the board. You got Joe Alt, you got Malik Nabers' name flying around. Where are the Giants going to go? Are they even going to draft a quarterback too? We don't know what they're going to do. We all know this is a draft that needs to be good. We know this draft needs to be good and draft well in order to move into the right direction, taking steps forward, not taking steps back. The Giants took a step back this year, didn't make the playoffs. They made the playoffs the previous year, first year under Brian Daboll. This year they didn't have the talent. They got beat by the Niners. They got beat up in the NFC East by the Cowboys and Eagles. They got beat up by the Dolphins. And there was a lot of teams that beat them up because they had more talent. And Joe Schoen realized that, Brian Daboll, the entire front office, Wink Martindale got fired. So a lot of things need to happen in order for this team to take a right direction. I think that starts with drafting well. And with the number 6 position, it's really, I believe it's offensive line or wide receiver. I don't really know if this team's going to take a guy like J.J. McCarthy or if Drake May drops to number 6. I don't really know. I wish I did to give you guys more information, but J.J. McCarthy's name has really been floating around the New York Giants. I don't know if it's a smokescreen by Joe Schoen, how he's so motivated to take Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy, who really didn't have to do much at Michigan. He won a national title this year and has a really good win-loss record, but he also played at Michigan. And J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion, didn't have to do much. He had Blake Corum, and I think his name was Donovan Edwards, had 2 really solid running backs, so all he had to do was give him the ball, and he would rush for a ton of yards, right? I think in that game against Washington, Donovan Edwards had 2 carries for 87 yards, and I think 2 touchdowns. So I think there's a lot of questions with J.J. McCarthy. I think there's a lot of questions of where Malik Nabers go. Is he going to be a Charger? Are the Giants going to take Rome Odunze? Are they going to take Joe Alt? So many questions, and this video is basically the pros and cons about taking a wide receiver over an offensive lineman or taking an offensive lineman over a wide receiver, right? I know you go years back, Zach Martin, Odell Beckham Jr. on the board. Giants go Odell, LSU product. Malik Nabers is an LSU product. So, and Joe Alt's a Notre Dame product, and Zach Martin was a Notre Dame product. So, it's kind of funny how we're back in this situation where if the Giants do go Malik Nabers and the whole thing happens again where Malik Nabers doesn't want to play in New York and he goes to a different team, they trade him, and then Joe Alt becomes a superstar tackle for the Titans or maybe the Chargers or even a team like the New York Jets if they don't want to go, with Brock Bowers, which I do believe that Brock Bowers could be a New York Jet. I really do believe that, because they just got Mike Williams and they, have a good team, the New York Jets. But with the New York Giants, we get into the pros and cons of the offensive lineman and the wide receiver. We're going to start off with the offensive lineman, Joe Alt, best in the class at his position. He's really good. I've watched his tape. He's explosive. He's really good in the run game. He's really good in the passing game. And that's what the Giants struggled in. Giants could not run the football at all with Saquon Barkley. And they couldn't pass the ball with Daniel Jones. Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito were nothing spectacular, in my opinion. I mean, they had good games, and they did win you games where they're pretty much meaningless games now. Because if you really do want a quarterback, you look at that game against Green Bay and Tommy DeVito won it, meaningless. You won the game against the Patriots. All of its meaningless wins at this point. If you really wanted one of the top QBs, whether it was if it was a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels, I think we all know Caleb Williams is going number 1 overall. And if the Giants probably lost 2, 3, 4, maybe more games, and they went maybe 3-14, it would be a much different story. We would probably say which quarterback are they going to take in the top 3. But now things have changed. Things have changed, and it's really where the Giants want to go to. Or do they want to take a potential wide receiver 1 in the class, or do they want to replace Evan Neal with an Notre Dame product in Joe Alt? Because I know Joe Alt's name has been flying around. I've seen all these guys talk about him, how good he is. And yes, he's very good. He's very, very good. And the one thing I do worry about, it's not for Joe Alt, it's for the New York Giants purposes. It's about believing in Evan Neal. I've seen this team say that they believe in Evan Neal in this organization. And I don't even know if that's a smokescreen. Because that front office could easily go out and say, yeah, Evan Neal's going to start next year and all this. And all of a sudden fool everybody in the draft and take Joe Alt and have his new right tackle. Because Andrew Thomas is great. Andrew Thomas is amazing. Franchise tackle. He's the franchise at left tackle. He's going to be there for many years and be a stopgap. Now you want to get that on the right side. They thought they had that in Evan Neal. They did not. So, building an offensive line is key. And that's where these pros come in. Building an offensive line can not only help Daniel Jones, it can help Brian Daboll and his team, because his team let up 85 sacks. Most in the NFL, broke some records, and it was ugly. It was really ugly, and this team needs to figure it out. So I definitely see the case of taking an offensive lineman here at 6. I do. I really do. And I know everybody has seen the mock drafts, and they've commented all of this, how you take in mid-league neighbors every draft. And I'm speaking positive right now about Joe Alt. If they took Joe Alt at number 6 overall, I wouldn't necessarily be mad. I think the guys that I would be very pleased with that 6 overall is Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, Rome Odunze, and that's really, really it. Honestly, no. Those are my 3 guys. Those are my top 3 guys that I would love the Giants to draft. Because this team needs offensive line, man. I know they made additions and they got John Roonan and other guys. They got the Raiders guy. I understand that, but I think the Evan Neal experiment needs to go. I think you have to really look at yourself and just say, do we really think Evan Neal is the right tackle of the future? Do we really think all of a sudden a new offensive line coach comes in and he all of a sudden really just starts playing well? Or do we re-look at the right tackle position and say, Evan Neal is not the answer, let's draft Joe Alt, and let's restart? It's not the end of the world. Like, it's okay for this rebuilding process to take decently long. It's okay. And fans have to accept that this rebuild process under Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen might take longer because of what Dave Gettleman did. Dave Gettleman did no favors. Saquon Barkley, a Gettleman pick. Xavier McKinney, a Gettleman pick. Now, I know Daniel Jones got the contract from Joe Schoen and his front office, but Dave Gettleman didn't give you any talent. Let's accept that. So I think building the offensive line could be huge. You look at the Detroit Lions, that offensive line, how easy it is for them to move the ball downfield. And they also have a wide receiver 1. So getting a wide receiver 1 and getting an offensive line that is blockable and that can block in front of your quarterback is huge. And there's teams too, like Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys. I can go on and on and on. Kansas City Chiefs, all those teams. But I think offensive line is huge, and I think it's definitely going to be a priority in this draft. It's just what the Giants do at 6. Do they love Joe Alt? Does the offensive line coach tell him, let's pull the trigger on this Notre Dame product, let's make him the franchise right tackle, and him and Andrew Thomas would be outstanding. 2 really good run blockers, 2 really good pass blockers. Now, I think he shows definitely both skills in the run game and the passing game, but he does lack elite quickness in his kick slide, and he does rely more of his reach than his coverage to protect the edge. But that's really all I have in terms of cons for Joe Alt. I think he's a stud product. I think if the Giants got him, it would be huge to build around Daniel Jones for now, because I think all Giants fans know that after this year, they're probably going to cut him. His contract is just not good, and there are ways around his contract, but I do believe that might have to move on from Daniel. We start at the quarterback position, refocus it, and I really hope John Mara doesn't just fire Brian Daboll if he does have another 6-11 season or 5-12. It's going to take time, Mara. It's not going to take 2 seasons. Yes, you made the playoffs, and that should be the bar, right? You made the playoffs. Yes, their schedule was easy. They can't create their own schedule, but now they need to get talent. The defense looks phenomenal in terms of the front line. I think the secondary does need work at corners and safeties and all that, but I think they could address that in the later rounds. I think they could definitely draft the safety and all that in the later rounds. But that's my side for the offensive line. I think it's definitely a priority. I think if they did take it, I'm not going to be mad at all. Even though there are 2 really stud wide receivers out there, I wouldn't be mad because that is what needs to be addressed too. Everything needs to be addressed. This team has holes. But getting into the wide receiver position, you look at all the elite offenses. Justin Jefferson, Vikings. Jamar Chase, Bengals. CeeDee Lamb, Cowboys. They're all studs. They all help their offense in an elite manner. All the top wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, all those guys. All those guys really help their team move the ball downfield and are a target for their quarterback to go to. When they need a first down, they're gonna get it to CeeDee Lamb. They're gonna get a first down for Justin Jefferson. All those guys. So for the Giants, that's why I do have Malik Nabers in most of my mock drafts going to the Giants because they need wide receivers. Okay, their wide receiver room is weak. We don't know what it is with Jalen Hyatt. He didn't play the snaps that we thought he was going to get. Wan'Dale Robinson looks speedy, looks to have some potential. Darius Slayton is probably your best option. And now, do I think he's wide receiver 1 material? Probably not. He's probably a solid wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 on most teams. But I think Darius Slayton has had good seasons even under bad quarterback play. Even under bad quarterback play from Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor or Tommy DeVito, all those type of guys. So drafting a wide receiver is crucial. You need someone to get the ball to. When you need a first down, when you need a big play, you go to your top option. The Vikings go to Justin Jefferson. The Cowboys go to CeeDee Lamb. Now, with the New York Giants, we don't have that. Your explosive weapon left you. Saquon Barkley left you to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's gone. Gone for good. Never coming back again. He was the motor of that offense. Now you have to find ways to get that new explosive weapon, that new guy to rely on. Okay? They weren't going to pay him that contract. We knew that. So go into the draft and draft a wide receiver because I think that's what's needed. I think that is probably one of the biggest needs of this team is a wide receiver 1. I know the offensive line is important, and I know we addressed that previously in this video. But when you have a guy like Malik Nabers, who is arguably, if not the most explosive wide receiver in this draft, take a shot. I know Daniel Jones is your quarterback right now, but he's not going to be the quarterback 2-3 years down the road. That's going to be a new quarterback. Whether they do trade up back in the first round and they do take a guy like Michael Penix Jr. or on day 2, they take a guy like Bo Nix. We don't know. We don't know what the New York Giants are going to do, really. But I do believe that they're going to take a wide receiver at 6. And I think that's what the main answer people were going to get to is, what are we taking? It's going to be, I believe it's going to be a wide receiver. But I know a lot of people are going to expect that. And you're like, oh, you take it every draft and all this. We expected that name. I think it also just comes to who's the best available, right? I think when it comes to that, the best wide receiver arguably is off the board. He goes to whatever team Marvin Harrison goes to. Why not take the second best? Why not take a guy like Malik Nabers? Why not? Take a shot. I understand it's not the greatest situation because our offensive line isn't great. Offensive line doesn't take 10 years, but the Giants found a way to make it difficult to build an offensive line. It's like some crazy science project that is taking so long and they don't have the resources to get it. To build the offensive line. I don't know what is going to happen in this draft, but I'll tell you this right now. I think a lot of fans are going to be happy with Joe Alt or Malik Nabers, or even Rome Odunze, right? I don't think we've talked about his name at all. Because if the Chargers do go wide receiver at 5, and they do take Malik Nabers, which could be a very possibility, even though Harbaugh doesn't love wide receivers, that team needs wide receivers and they need them bad. So, and also just giving a weapon to Justin Herbert. Now, for the Daniel Jones, I think getting a guy like Rome Odunze isn't a bad option at all. And I'll tell you this right now. I think this pick is super important come, in the later parts. Because if you do go offensive line first, then does that mean wide receiver is going to be more like a third round pick? Or do they go wide receiver there, and then second or third round they take maybe Christian Haynes to guard, or Patrick Paul, or one of those offensive linemen? So I think the number 6 pick is super important. Now, in terms of trading down, I think the only team you can maybe trade down with is the Minnesota Vikings, so they can get J.J. McCarthy. I don't think the Giants are going to go J.J. McCarthy. I really don't. I think the only quarterback I honestly see them taking is Drake May, because if he does even drop, if the Washington Commanders go Jaden Daniels and the the Patriots go Marvin Harrison Jr. and the Cardinals trade down or something, I think this draft is going to be crazy. I think a lot of crazy things are going to be happening. I think because of how talented this draft is, going to be a lot of trade ups, a lot of trade downs. But I'm excited. You should be really excited for this draft. I think it's one of the biggest drafts in recent memory for the New York Giants. And I think whether they go offensive line and take Joe Alt, or they take Malik Nabers, it's going to put the Giants in a good spot. I think that's just how it goes. I really do believe in this front office. I do believe. I really think that they can get things done and move this team in the right direction. I don't think this is going to be like some 2 years and, all right, Joe Schoen, you're gone. See ya. You're done. Brian Daboll, you couldn't make us back to the playoffs. Really? You're gone. I don't think John Mara is just going to clear house again. I think he's going to let this one take some time, and we'll see where it goes from there. It'll be interesting how the draft goes, and I know I've said that countless times in this episode, but get excited, Giants fans. Get excited. The draft is like a month away-ish. I'm going to be continuing to do mock drafts, of course. I know that does really good on this channel. But anyways, of course, it's been an honor to give you my opinion about the New York Giants. I think this team isn't too far away. They got Brian Burns in a trade, using one of their picks to get them. It'll be interesting. I think they're going to prioritize offense heavily. Not just the offensive line or not just wide receivers. I think they're just going to prioritize the offense heavily. I think later rounds they're going to take secondary and take safeties or cornerbacks. But it should be an amazing draft. I really hope the Giants conquer this draft and take amazing talent. Get talent. But anyways, guys, this has been episode 102 breaking down the NFL New York Giants draft preview. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.